Hi everyone, my name's Michelle and I'm Mama Loves You GB here on FlossTube, but also over on Instagram and Etsy as well. Welcome to the Sunday morning briefing. This is the 3rd of April already. We've already had the 1st of April. I didn't get any April Fools, thankfully. Well, none that I know of. Most of them I've just obviously taken as absolute gospel if there was any out there. So God knows what pieces of spurious information I will be passing on in weeks to come. We shall see. I've got 2 starts to show you today, no finishes. I've worked on some stuff, I've got a little bit of haul, and I've also gathered together a few spring finishes, a few FFOs to show you. I'm really behind on my FFOing. Just at the moment, getting the whole sewing machine and all the finishing materials out at the moment is just too much of a step. But we have got the Easter holidays coming up very soon, so I'm hoping that my finishing box, because it's getting quite a box now, I'll actually get round to doing it. So it's been a little bit more of an even keel this week. Very, very busy still. We've got lots of teachers off at school, and actually for the first time this week we had to go to 2 year groups not being in. So on Thursday year 8 weren't in, and on Friday year 9 weren't in, because we just didn't have enough staff to cover all of the year groups and everybody that was off. And in fact year 8 won't be in on Monday either. It just seems to have gone through the roof in our area in terms of COVID. Luckily people don't seem to be really ill with it, but it is taking most people the full 10 days to get a negative test. So when I had it, I felt like I was in the minority. It's definitely not that case anymore. It's yeah, it's pretty rampant over here. So as I said, plenty of things to go through. If you're a new subscriber, welcome along. I've had quite a few new subscribers recently, and if you've been with me for one morning briefing or since the very beginning, welcome back. Right, I've still got that annoying cough. The headaches have gone, the heartburn went, but the skin is still, it's dry as a bone. So if anybody knows of any really good, I'm looking for a miracle here folks, I want to look like 22 by next week. So if anybody knows of any really good creams, please do let me know. I use Elemis mostly at the moment, but it just doesn't seem to be cutting the mustard. It's just like in fact this bit here, the last time I got this was when I came back from Bolivia, and my skin was so dry because it had been so burned and windburnt, and that was the last time I had this almost like, oh, it's dreadful. I don't know what COVID has done to my skin, but there we go. I went to the theatre on Friday night. That was weird. So I travelled to school with the drama teacher because we both live in the same little village, and he'd said to me in the week, oh, I've got this grant to go to the theatre to take the GCSE and A-level classes to the theatre. We're going to see this play called Petula put on by the Welsh National Theatre Group. I was like, all right, yeah, lovely job, I'll come along with you. And it was down in Milford Haven, and they're going to have lots to write about, put it that way. They're going to have lots to write about. The play was called Petula, and it was about a 12-year-old boy whose parents had split up, and that was about the most normal part of it. His cousin was missing, and they thought she was in space, so he ended up getting thrown into space by his stepdad, who'd eaten a live duck, and he ended up riding through space on the back of a flea called Gillian Anderson. Martin said to me at the end, he said, what did you think of it? I said, that hurt my scientific little brain. It really did. I couldn't get it. But it was good. The kids loved it. So that was the main thing. Right. Let's see what I've been doing. I have been mainly, well, I say mainly, I've been working on my spring stitches from A Year in the Woods. So these are the 2 that have been released. I'm going to hold this one a little bit more carefully because it's got some thread stuck in it. So that was my working copy, hence why it's a photocopy. This is the real one with the pattern wedged in it. So we've got the jackrabbit and the raccoon, and then the 3rd one that they've released is the ferret, which isn't out yet. And so this is on the green fabric, and I've gone ahead and started the raccoon, mainly because I wanted to get into that tail. I really wanted to get into that tail. Is it better on that side? I feel like an optician. Better on this side, better on that side. Lights on, lights off. There we go. So absolutely beautiful. Love, love, love it. And then let me just show you the space where the ferret will go. Now the ferret comes out next month. I think everybody who was with the Peakside Needleworks auto ship for this had their raccoons a bit early because they wanted to get them out before they went to Nashville. So I've had the raccoon, or I will have had the raccoon for a bit longer. So they are all even along the bottom. It does look like the raccoon's a bit higher, but it's not, I've counted. So let's just show you. I've done a little bit more work on the hair, but that's the raccoon and the lovely tail. Now this little house, I've made a mess up, and I'm not going to unpick it. There's 2 rows there where there's only one on this side. It might not be so easy to see because of the main front gable, but all I shall do is, instead of counting off this, is I shall count off here. There's enough space to go past it with the vine work that goes up the other side. And on first glance, I don't think it's terribly noticeable. I think I'm probably going to leave it, which probably means by the next time I show you, I'll have picked it out. But no, I think I'm probably going to leave it. So that is where I am with that. So the raccoon was a new start. I hadn't started that last week. I haven't had that much stitchy time this week, really. Like I said, as I'm sure you can imagine, this time of year school's super busy, and I do, for my GCSE and my AS and my A level, I do an online tutoring session in the evening, so they can jump online for half an hour or so, and we'll go through a topic, and then it just gives them a bit of a springboard for their revision. So yeah, I've got that in the evenings as well. So yeah, not quite as much stitchy time, but it's only short-lived, and by the time they've done their exams, it'll all be fine. Now, my next new start is something that just popped up on Etsy, and I had to have it. I had to have it, and I had to start it, and I knew exactly what I was going to start it on. So this is by Summer Kitchen Threads, reproduced by Vicky Herman, and this is Mary Carr 1803, and this is the sampler, and I really liked it for lots of different reasons. One of the reasons I liked it was the red and the green. Now, Susan Standley, I'll see if I can look up the video where she talks about it, but a few videos ago she talked about red and green samplers and why there are quite a few red and green samplers around, and it was an interesting history. I think this one may predate the time when red and green samplers were particularly popular, but I liked the red and green, and the other thing that I really liked about it was the white, and I thought it was unusual to see white in a reproduction sampler. So that was one of the things that I really liked about it, was the white. The other thing that I really liked about it was, I have to do it that way, was that unusual blue, that unusual tealy blue, both in the tree and the bit more vibrant turquoise bit in the bushwork, I suppose, what you want to call it. It's got 2 little birds on the top of it. And then the other thing that I really liked about it was the church. Now, the church is done in like a checkerboard fashion, so I really liked that. It is charted in a Verosoise with a DMC conversion. There's a couple of fancy stitches, well, not really fancy, satin stitches and Algerian eyelets, so they're the only 2. And the satin stitch goes across the middle, that sort of saw border there, and then the eyelets are this bottom border here. But you could always do Smyrna crosses, or you could do just 4 cross stitches if you wanted to. There is a little bit of over 1 in her name, So where it says made by Mary Carr, the capital letters are over 2 and the name and the kind of other bit of typing there, writing, is over 1. But I really, really liked it. I just thought there was something very different about it. And so I started to stitch on the 32 count Lakeside Linens wood smoke that I got from 123 Stitch the other day. So I managed to get a fat 8 that just happened to be in stock. So I thought, I've never tried Lakeside Linens before, I'll give it a go. And this is where I am so far. So let me just, it's because I've got needles sticking in the top of everything. Come on. It's because I'm trying to put a needle through eyelet first. Basic, Michelle. So, there we go. And I did change the colours slightly. The red and the white are as called for. I changed the green up a little bit more because the green that they called for was much more of a yellow green, whereas I quite liked the way it looked on the front cover and I thought it looked more of a greeny green. So I changed my green. Once I've finished, I'll give you my colours if anybody's interested. And then this doesn't look terribly teal coloured there, but it is that teal blue. The light's a little bit funny tonight. So that's where I am on Mary Carr, and there's probably another inch and a bit to go. She's pretty much square. I'll tell you exactly. She is 140 by 142 stitches. So this is 32 count, so she's going to be just under 9 inches square. The original called for linen was 32 count Cocoa by Weeks Dye Works. So that's where I am on her. I started her this week and I'm really enjoying it. Really enjoying it. Okay. I have just realised I've committed a bit of a faux pas. I've forgotten a freebie. I forgot to grab a freebie. However, one of the things that I'm going to show you in my finishes is a freebie. So I'm going to link that one down below and I'll try and remember to show you 2 next week. But yeah, I'm going to link one of the ones that I've just done, I've pulled out to show you. So I'm going to show you my past finishes, all the ones that are kind of like spring related, and then I'll show you my haul, and it's not very much haul. Okay, so spring related. Let's start off with the one which was a freebie. So this is my finish of a freebie by Whilst Iris Naps, and the freebie was, I nearly got an echo. I could almost play that, I get an echo out of it. You can tell it's late, can't you? So this was her freebie and I will link it down below. So this is from last year. And if I remember correctly, the freebie was a pillow with the 3 bunnies on. And then there was various different inclinations of bunnies and carrots, and then there was a reverse of the pillow to do as well, because Christina's very good with her, when she makes her pillows are quite often stitched on the reverse as well, whereas I'm a bit lazy and I just do a plain fabric back, but quite often her pillows are double-sided. She's far better than me. So yes, it was the bunnies. I just switched out their little tails for some vintage buttons that I had, and then the carrot that's on here is one of the carrots that is in the chart. And then on the top I've just done like a pin cushion finish with some little, just another Button Company pins, and the little rabbit one is a Puntini pin. And I just finished it onto a little tin watering can. There we go, that wasn't hard, was it? So I'll link that one down below, and that could be our freebie for today. Other spring finishes, I'll show you this one very quickly. This one usually sits above just up there somewhere. So this is March, When I Think of March by Puntini, and I finished mine on a spool, just that I can tie on. Now this was a spool that I had made by a local wood turner, so I had it made to my kind of specifications so that I could just make my covers and just tie them on at the back. So that's When I Think of March by Puntini, and she also does one in a very similar way, which is called Spring, and I've got the chart for it, but I haven't stitched it yet. So I'll put a picture of it up there from her chart, and then you can go and grab that. So she's got all the seasons and she's got all the years as well. What else have I got? Another Puntini. Let's go with that because it's here. So this one is Sow Grow Eat Repeat. I think the actual chart is just called Sow Grow Eat. And this is by Puntini as well. And I just love her buttons. Now I stitched this for Mania 2 years ago maybe. I had a button Mania, and it's stitched on a piece of Zweigart. Oh, what is that colour called? It's a very pale green, not mottled, no over dye or anything like that. It's just a very pale kind of green. I've forgotten what it's called now, but it would look lovely on anything. And I love the rabbit and the watering can, and it's just finished with a bit of grey felt, and I popped this little flower on the back, which I think was actually a little brooch, but I just thought it looked cute on the back. So there we go, Sow Grow Eat. I have also stitched, now I grabbed this one and I can remember the designer, but I don't think I can remember the name of it. This is by Cherie Wheeler, and this is stitched on a piece of 32 count vintage country mocha with, I think, oh, is it called Black Coffee? The thread? It's a very blacky brown thread anyway. I can't remember what it's called. I think it's Black Coffee. And I just put the same fabric on the back, which again I think is unusual for me, and just made it into a little hanging pillow stuffed with a little bit of fibre fill. So you can find that on Etsy. I'll try and link all these below. And then I have got this one. Again, I just paused a minute because it's something called Easter Peep. I think it might be Easter Peep. This one is by Brenda Gervais, and I coffee dyed this one. In fact, I think I tea dyed it. So get my hot beverages right. I think I tea dyed it because I'd stitched the whole thing except for the little rabbit lollipop, and I decided it was just a bit too bright, because obviously the spots were bright white, the chick was fairly bright yellow because I'd used DMC rather than an over dye. I stitched this quite a while ago, so I probably didn't have too many over dyes then. And so I stitched everything except for the rabbit because I knew I wanted the rabbit to be white. And then I just dunked the whole thing in a tea dye for a little while, and yeah, I like it. It just sits on my shelf. I keep most of my cross stitch out year round up in this spare room here, and then I just pull down certain bits and bobs into the living room, sort of seasonally really. Although most of my living room seems to be covered with toys at the moment. Because that's just the way it is. Ness is still in that big toy age. She's not quite got away from, she's getting into littler toys, smaller Lego, you know, a few kind of electrical things, but she's still hanging on to a lot of the big, like Octonauts toys, Paw Patrol toys, so we've got both at the minute. So my living room is not the picture of serene, calm, country Welsh living. It looks like a bomb's gone off in it most days. Okay, I digress. This one is by Kathy Barrick and it's called Rebecca Rabbit. I think it's called Rebecca Rabbit. If it's not, I'll put her name down below because she has a partner called Rodney Rabbit. And I stitched this on a 40 count Picture This Plus. And I'm still not ready to stitch the partner because that rabbit is massive. Absolutely massive. So yeah, I was glad to see it was finished, but it was massive. I'm still looking out for the Kathy Barrick 2022 Moons chart. I didn't pre-order anything for from the needlework market and I missed that one when it came in, so I'm waiting for one of the other shops now to get their stock in. Not that I'm going to stitch it anytime soon, but I just feel I need it in my possession. I want it rather than I want to stitch it straight away. It's not particularly well framed because I was going to make it into a pillow. In fact, it's terribly framed because I was going to make it into a pillow. And so I actually backed it with some iron-on backing, and then the pillow went horrendously wrong. This was way back when I first started making pillows. It went horrendously wrong, and so I salvaged it by chucking it in a frame, basically. I think if I took it apart now, I could probably get the backing off of it, because that iron-on backing doesn't always stay on forever, and then I might be able to make a better job of finishing it. But since I haven't finished the finishing that I've already got to do, I'm not about to take apart old finishings and have another go at it just yet. It can stay as it is for the minute. It's better like that than in a box, so that will do. I've got this little one. Just dust that for you a second. So I made this into a little sort of cloche finish. I still am planning on painting the bottom and I still haven't got around to it. This is Spring. Whoops. This is Spring by Hands On Design, I believe. And I think I changed the colours up. And it's just sat into a little, I think it was the lid of a candle. And because it just happened to fit into the base of this little cloche, and I've got some, where are we, some puntini pins sat in the top of it. Now the one that I bought, the little cloche, was one of the ones that had the lights fitted, but it happened to be the perfect size, so I very quickly remedied the fact that it had lights in it with a pair of scissors and just cut them out. And I do like it. It just sits on my shelf, probably usually about there. So hence why my background looks a little bit bare today, because I've pinched stuff to show you. And then the last one is my Welcome Spring by The Drawn Thread. Now this normally sits over my fireplace, hence why this one's got glass on it, because we have an open fire, so it's always really dusty, so I didn't want it to be sat right above somewhere where it's going to get super dusty. And I got this chart and the kit from Chris at the Nimble Thimble, and there we go, excuse the glare. It's stitched in the called for silk threads. So when you buy the kit from Chris, she gives you bit of random gunk. She gives you, I wouldn't even say just enough to do the chart. She gives you more than enough to do the chart, but you're just not buying 4 or 5 pound skeins of silk when you only need a small amount. Now the letters actually are stitched in a sulky thread because, and I don't know whether it was to do with the colour of the fabric I used or what, but the colour for the letters and the darker green weren't terribly different. Actually no, I apologise, it's the darker green that I switched for the sulky because there wasn't enough contrast for my eye between the two threads. But everything else is as was called for, and I think the difference in the contrast was probably because more to do with the fabric that I'd stitched it on. and I just switched for a sulky thread. So everything else is silk. There's a few specialty stitches as you would expect with the drawn thread. There is some satin stitches, and that's about it on this one actually. The one that I've nearly just finished, which is Welcome Summer, has got a few more specialty stitches on it. Ones that I haven't done terribly well with, I have to say. But I like it. And a couple of little bits of haul. Did I bring that up with me? Yes. So my Mother's Day present. Remember I said last week I thought it would contain probably a stitchy chart, and it did, I was right. Ness had picked out for me the SnowFlower Diaries, You Make Me Happy. And this is very, very special, this chart, because it's got a little girl on a dolphin. And obviously those of you who've been with me a little while, you know that my partner is, in the summer, a dolphin watching guide out in Cardigan Bay. And so it says on there, when I count my blessings, I count you twice. And so I probably will change the colour of the hair just to make her a little bit blonder. Because Ness is blonde, although she's getting darker like I did. I had white blonde hair when I was born, believe it or not. And then the SnowFlower Diaries also, with this chart, which came from Etsy, they also sent this one out as well. This is called Sweet Summer, I think. Yeah, Sweet Summer it says there. And it's another little mermaid. So this is a freebie chart, and actually I will put the link to this freebie chart as well. So from going to saying I had no freebie charts, I'm going to put the links for 2 freebie charts this week. So there we go. So that was my Mother's Day present, which I was very happy about. And then the other 2 bits of haul I've got, I picked up Throw Wide the Windows by Shakespeare's Peddler, which is part of one of the samplers that she's also released. I think the sampler is Jane Summer. Let me take that out of the bag actually, that was a bit more glary than I had anticipated. But I liked this one. And then I did actually see the full sampler and I was like, oh, maybe I should have got the full sampler. But I think I really do just like this little bit. That's not to say I might not buy the full sampler, but I did like this one as well. I'm not entirely sure about the dark border at the top. It may end up just being the house, or I may put the dark border at the bottom. I don't know. I'm not sure, but I loved that house. Just building a house brick by brick is one of the most satisfying things to do in cross stitch, I think. And this is the other thing that I bought, and this was because I saw in the Primitive Hairs Facebook group, a lady had finished the stitching for this, and she'd done it on a bright green fabric, so she changed the colours of the stitch quite a lot. It looked fabulous, and I just loved the concept of it. And then I looked in the Primitive Hairs Etsy shop for it, and I couldn't find it, so I messaged Isabel from the Primitive Hair and said, can I get this chart by PDF? And she said, yeah, no problem. And she sent me a PayPal invoice, I paid it, and then she sent it to me by email. And so I've put it into my good notes as well, because I think I might need good notes for this one. I think it's going to be a little bit more complicated. So the idea is called Now and Then, and it's this beautiful lady, and you stitch her like that, but when you lift one side of the cover, you can see underneath she's got her skeleton. Now, my idea for stitching this, I think I'm going to change the colours slightly as well. I might just warm the colours up a little bit on the living side. I did a piece of fabric a little while ago, which reminded me of almost like a sunny sky with clouds. So it was like a blue with some grey in it. So I'm going to find that piece out, and what I think I'm going to try and do is, if you imagine that's the piece that you would kind of stitch together, I'm going to leave the living side as the blue kind of slightly cloudy sunny sky, and I'm going to go back and I'm going to re-dye this half and put more grey into it and make it more stormy. And then I'm hoping I've got enough of the blue to stitch the top or the other side of her that I'm going to need to stitch as well, and then I'll put it together like this. But I think I'm going to put mine together almost as like a sewing pouch, where you move this side off and then on the inside here would be a place for needles and pins and threads and things like that, and then you would just tie it together in the middle, almost like with a bow with her dress. So that's the plan. If the piece of fabric I've got is not big enough, then I'll just have to re-dye another piece, and I'll probably dye it on 36 count rather than 32 count, because I know that summery sky one is a 32 count. So that's a plan. That's another plan to add to the list, but it was just stunning. I really, really loved the finish of this. So if you aren't already in the Primitive Hares Facebook group, I would suggest that you do. And I did buy the first ever kit that I've ordered from as a pre-order from Nashville, from the Primitive Hare. I ordered her cross-stitch collector one, which is now I think in her Etsy shop, and I'll put a picture up there, which I'm waiting on to arrive. I'm sure it will get here fairly soon, but I'm sure she's been overwhelmed with orders and things to do anyway. So that is Now and Then by the Primitive Hare. And that is everything I've got to offer you today. Next week is going to be exciting because it's going to be the Easter holidays. I think some of you might be starting Easter holidays maybe next week. We've got one more week to go. And then, yeah, I shall be the happiest bunny on the planet just for the Easter holidays. I will catch you next week. Stay classy, stitchers.